The theory about the existence of giant excavations and large-scale quarries on Earth, especially underwater parts of the planet, has been voiced for quite a long time and continues to develop to this day. Objects on the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea are clearly visible in archival early satellite images, which can be viewed in the Planet Earth program. But here's the problem. They are regularly blurred out, so it's necessary to save all the evidence right away as soon as we discover it. Here the territory looks like the layout of a city, and here are some strange traces on the bottom of the Karinsky Bay. And most researchers who see such facts have a thought. It is of course on the verge of fantasy. However, many topics that we have now already proven and continue to find new facts about seemed like fantasy 10 or 15 years ago as well. There is a theory that strange formations on the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea are found at depths of up to 3 kilometers, for example, in the Ionian Sea from 1.5 to 5 kilometers. It is possible that the Mediterranean Sea itself was not always a sea, since it was not connected to the Atlantic, the world ocean. You can be convinced of this if you lower the level of the world ocean. The average depth of the Gibraltar Strait is about 372 yards. Most likely, this is a fault that formed during the expansion of the Earth, just like the Mediterranean Sea itself. By the way, this is one of the official hypotheses that explains the formation of Gibraltar by the fact that the waters of the Atlantic Ocean simply broke through this strait and thus formed the Mediterranean Sea, flooding it. If we recall the ancient legends about the gods, their height, and take this as part of that reality, then where could such giants have lived? As discussed in some articles of this magazine, gigantic organisms require increased atmospheric pressure for comfortable living and necessary metabolism, as well as more oxygen and higher pressure in the intercellular fluid. Further, it can be assumed that these giants inhabited land depths of -2 to 3 kilometers from the current level of the world ocean. For them, rising higher is like an unprepared modern person climbing 3 to 4 kilometers up into the mountains. They wouldn't have anything to breathe due to insufficient oxygen. This could also apply to ancient flora. Its giants, the dinosaurs, could only live in conditions with higher pressure. And if the ancient atmospheric pressure of the Earth was about the same as it is now, they could have lived in such lowlands. After they were flooded, they rose higher and died, as evidenced by the dinosaur graveyards. And those who survived could no longer reproduce and soon became extinct. Look at this schematic map of the Mediterranean Sea floor. It shows the depths, and you can also see traces of rivers on it. Previously, currents flowed along what are now the shelf zones of the sea. There are traces of erosion from streams flowing from these shelf zones into deeper lowlands. All this suggests that there used to be much less water in the Mediterranean Sea, since the level was lower, or there was no water at all. Also, the map shows the depths and heights of some mountains. Here we see channels on the seafloor, opposite the city of Genuia and opposite the mouth of the Poltsevera River. And here it suggests the conclusion that the Black Sea was not previously connected to the Mediterranean. According to legend, the ancient Greek gods lived on Olympus. Perhaps it was some mountain at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, back when it was still a dry valley. In addition to these lines, works by Tolkien are also recalled, with his Middle-earth, hobbits, and other marvelous hybrid species of intelligent and not-so-intelligent beings. Perhaps it was there that the events took place, remembered by someone from the ancient memory of past incarnations, and later told to us in the saga The Lord of the Rings. Or maybe all of this, recorded in various sources, is kept far from the public, but is shown to certain directors and screenwriters. In the past, during a new stage of Earth's expansion, perhaps the following happened. Waters began to emerge from the depths, the level of the world ocean rose, faults formed and then continued to expand. Gibraltar broke through, the Mediterranean was flooded, and other deep lowlands were also submerged, for example the Black Sea. The giants had to save themselves by climbing higher, where they could no longer survive due to the low pressure for them. This remained in Russian fairy tales about giants like Svetogor, Gorinya, Dubinia, Usinia, and so on. A huge head is found in Pushkin's Ruslan and Lyudmila. Goliath is a huge Philistine warrior, a descendant of the giants, the Rephaim in the Old Testament, and many other examples. Such giants could have had the strength to build megalithic structures. Everything we see on Google Maps at the bottom of the oceans and seas may possibly be traces of the activities on the surface of the Earth of that past civilization. Here is what the continents looked like at one of the stages of Earth's expansion. Hyperborea still exists, the Caspian is different, and Baikal is absent. And where could these giants have hidden then? There is a theory that they went deep underground, many kilometers down, creating ventilation shafts that allow them to maintain atmospheric pressure there, corresponding to that depth. Or, according to another theory, into the inner Earth, the cave in Kabardino-Balkaria. Perhaps we are seeing the ventilation of underground cities of the giants who went there. Let's return to the topic of quarries and gigantic excavations at the bottom of the oceans. The author of this video discovered geometrically correct outlines on the shelf zone in the ocean near American Los Angeles. The length is 1.5 kilometers and the width is half as much. The object is located at a depth of almost 30 meters, and the distance from the shore is 2.5 kilometers. Anyone who sees this shape immediately thinks that these can only be traces of intelligent activity. Nature doesn't create such figures. There are a number of videos with overviews of artifacts on the ocean floor. Everything we see cannot be verified in any way, so the conclusions and theories will only be speculative. Given that we kind of assume that those who conducted the ocean research showed the real ocean floor and real footage, also some things may display artifacts from the scanning method itself, map stitching, and other glitches that have nothing to do with reality. But many things really look real and are interesting from the point of view of their geological and artificial formation. An unsolvable mystery. A wall at the bottom of the ocean. It starts off the coast of Antarctica, goes across the entire Pacific Ocean, and approaches the eastern coast of Eurasia, near Chukotka. Then, in the Arctic Ocean, it appears again, and disappears near the Lomonosov underwater ridge. Some people claim these are bugs from stitching maps together, while others are convinced it's a technological element of an artificially created Earth. Stitching, a contour around our planet like on Saturn's moon Iapetus. There you can observe exactly the same stitching of elements, as well as numerous craters with dots inside. There is a theory that these are traces of airborne nuclear explosions with suction zones inside, which occur under atmospheric conditions. The wall, whose image was transmitted by the American probe Cassini, stretches along the equator of Saturn's moon Iapetus for 1,300 kilometers. In some places, its height exceeds 20 kilometers. It looks like this is a mountain ridge, but scientists still cannot even suggest how such a gigantic range could have appeared on Saturn's third moon. And is it even a mountain system? And why does it run exactly along the equator, making Iapetus look like a glued-together ball? Conspiracy theorists compare it to the Death Star from the movie Star Wars because of the presence of a huge crater or some kind of technological structure on it. And here again we encounter the theory that Star Wars is not the future, but the past of the solar system. So what is this belt around the Earth? If this isn't a map-stitching bug, then it could have been built when there was no water on Earth. So this wall contradicts the theory of Earth's expansion. In that case, it would be all in torn segments. In any case, this is a level beyond us, the ant people. There's also a theory that this is a transportation system, or it could have another technological purpose. Here are more examples of lines from huge underwater hills, an image of the Barents Sea on an archival map, and an image of Novaya Zemlya on a map. The drawing is already worse, and on Yandex maps they're not visible at all. Here is the Sea of Okhotsk. You can see chains of underwater hills. Could these be scanning or map display errors? Maybe these are underwater volcanoes, but why do they form a chain and are spaced evenly apart from each other? Most likely this is an accurate display, because one of these hills from this long chain actually reaches the surface, and it is physically captured in the photo. This is Iony Island. It is one of the underwater cones of giant hills that rises above the surface of the water. In the description of the Sea of Okhotsk, the most remote point of Khabarovsk Krai is a rock in the Sea of Okhotsk, 250 kilometers north of Sakhalin Island, with a height of about 150 meters. There's no need to guess what this is, and we have a common explanation for these underwater hills. This is either the peak of one of the thousands of pyramids around the world, or spoil heaps of which there is an enormous abundance in the world. They are often mistaken for volcanoes because sometimes, due to the high pressure inside them, a nuclear reaction occurs and the spoil heaps spew out molten magma. It can also be assumed that this is nothing other than something similar to mud volcanoes, which previously erupted not magma but mineral tuff. The fact that they form in chains indicates that they arise along faults, provided that the faults can be very straight, and then, naturally, they can also form underwater. However, their existence in many places on Earth, where they stand in perfectly straight rows, raises great doubt, which rules out their natural origin.